just a little over 5 months to go, Tears of the Kingdom is becoming less of a distant prospect and something very real, very tangible. And I'm happy to put my call on it now. This game is going to be something special, and I'm convinced Nintendo are ushering in another defining moment in gaming right before our very eyes. Tears of the Kingdom will be a game long remembered beyond its launch in May 2023, and if you feel a slight twinge of excitement, maybe nervousness or anticipation, then you're right about where I am now. Hold on to that feeling and treasure it, and revel in the joy that the series brings to so many fans around the world. Life's complicated enough. This build-up is a shining light in what has been a challenging time for the whole world in varying degrees. Man, I'm ready to get excited about going on another adventure. Hopefully you are too. This enthusiasm drives more and more theories for me, and today I'll be touching on 3 of them. Not because they're any smaller or any less special, but because I have a lot of theories to share and discuss before the mysteries give way to the reality come launch day. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get into it. Number 1, Zora's lore and backstory. I recently covered Zora's domain in a theory talking about potential starting point for Tears of the Kingdom based on logical reasoning and where Breath of the Wild ended. There's also the events that surround this, geographical opportunities, actions in play, and of course massive clues like those of the luminous stones that surround both Zora's domain and the entire cavern to Ganon's resting place we see in the first trailer. Well, following on from that, it turns out there's more interesting pieces to put together to fill out the world and the lore and help make sense of it all. Firstly, we have confirmation that luminous stones are an integral material in the building and maintenance of Zora's domain itself, a fact covered in-game with the side quest provided by Lido, who asked Link to collect 10 of them to trade for diamonds. As it turns out, Lido is an apprentice of Dento, yet this happy hammerhead who leads up the smithing duties for the Zora and is also the brawn behind me for the ceremonial trident and other notable crafts. Both Lido and Franck work under Dento and utilise luminous stones to repair Zora's domain, a really important task with the recent damages from the Divine Beast problems. This little detail not only explains the shimmering glow to Zora's domain, but also a hugely critical reason as to why this location was chosen for their home following the move some 10,000 years ago. Going further on that, I'd also speculate that their potential habitat prior to the move would have likely been around a familiar haunt for the Zora historically, and that's the area around Lake Hylia. Not only does this location traditionally pose a spiritual connection as the home of the Water Temple in Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess for example, but acts as a hub for the vital flow of water in the kingdom. In fact, we get another side quest from Franck, who is distraught having lost his wife following one of Ruda's rampages, and convinced that the tidal movements have washed her downriver and further in danger. As Link, you help find his partner May in Lake Hylia, where you're able to reunite her with her husband and make one more inhabitant of Hyrule a little less overwhelmed. Further evidence to the location is the fact that we know that the Zono built a large edifice of the dragon around the Spring of Courage and was said to have worshipped a water dragon, making much more sense as to why the Zora might have been located somewhere around Lake Hylia or the Faron region if this was also the location of their spiritual deity. The Faron region is by nature almost tropical, with small inlets and lakes around lush vegetation, suggesting the climate may have shifted over time to a more dry state, making this location less hospitable to the Zora and a motivator in their move. The rubber helm is another key item found in this location, and one that bears a striking resemblance to the primary spiritual deity worshipped by the Zora, that being Jabu Jabu, who acts as the idol for their current grand architecture we see in their home in the Lanayru region. The shape and posture are unmistakable and almost identical, meaning this can't be a coincidence. Even more interesting is the piece providing protection from lightning as part of the rubber outfit, which is a known weakness of the Zora to the point that Prince Sidon seeks out Link to aid in tackling Divine Beast Varuda due to the Zora's incompatibility with shock arrows or lightning of any description. The rubber garb would have been the perfect remedy, and dare it be said was likely created to handle what I think may have become the other major driver of the transition from this region, that being the Dragon Farosh. If this area was once home to a water dragon but was eventually replaced or usurped by one that spews lightning from its paws unconsciously as part of its general movement, the implications to the prone Zora would be nothing short of catastrophic. This alone would be enough to ensure the upheaval of the tribe, a movement to a new location that offered not only the water and resources they needed, but also protection from a fate that would be more than shocking. Number 2. Multiplayer. Now, this one is definitely left of center, and I'd happily admit quite unlikely to occur, but I wanted to touch on it because the more I thought about it, the more it made sense in a weird kind of way, so hear me out. Could there be an aspect of multiplayer in Tears of the Kingdom, whether that be in the main game, or potentially in some other facet, that we will see come into play? Now, before we shut this one down completely, the idea is driven purely by this concept art, one that I keep coming back to, but could never make sense of how it would work, till I started playing Dark Souls. You see, in this concept art featured in creating a champion, Link is shown shining a torch against some scrolls into the wall, with the accompanying note reflecting ancient writing which appears in the final room of a dungeon, or notes from other adventurers. Having now played my way through Dark Souls and well into Demon Souls, the application of multiplayer elements in those games is far different to what I've seen elsewhere and could apply to this piece. One aspect I've been a little concerned about with Tears of the Kingdom is the massive cry out for the return of dungeons. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm old school Zelda, and I know my way around a dungeon or two. But for many who have come on board with Breath of the Wild, carving back down the linear road and potential of challenging dungeons that can stump players can ultimately lead to them moving away from the game. And it makes me wonder how the devs might tackle that particular issue. But here is a potential solution that would also generate a new level of interaction and excitement in a Zelda game. Think about having the ability to leave messages a la Soul style, warning other players about traps or hinting at treasure or clues to solve puzzles that they can tap into if they're stuck. Or going further, maybe even having the ability to summon in a random stranger to assist. It could work with Nintendo's online offering in the way it would not need to involve voice chat and could be done anonymously, and also create a sense of camaraderie amongst the community. The thing is, looking back across the catalogue of games, it's not too crazy to consider. Since 2004 and the release of Four Swords, Nintendo has experimented in no less than 6 different games incorporating some form of multiplayer involvement, albeit to varying degrees of success. Four Swords and Triforce Heroes went the direct route with the requirements of team-ups that ultimately hindered accessibility for some who didn't have the ability to find others to play with, whereas others have gone the more helper route with actions like the Tingle Tuner in Wind Waker. The fact is, an online Souls-type application of cooperative message for hints and potential summon-style assistance for those who are struggling actually makes a lot of sense, and dare I say it could sound pretty fun. The best part is that the component would be completely optional, meaning diehard single players can still have their experience just the way they want it, while those seeking something with more interactivity can also choose the option if that suits them the best. Another reason that supports this theory is the time we've seen for development. Having something of this nature incorporated would add another layer of complexity for the devs to work out, so it could go some way to explaining the timeframes and the hushed approach to details we've seen thus far. Like I said, my hopes aren't hugely high for this to be real, but it's a cool thought, and I'd like to hear your opinions on the idea. Do you think something like this could work in a Zelda game? And if so, would you be keen to try it out? Or would you rather keep your experience single player only? Let me know in the comments. Number 3, Gerudo Link. Now, the final theory today is one I strongly believe in, and for more reasons than I'll be providing today. From day one in seeing the concept art for Link in Breath of the Wild, I naturally assumed at some point it was going to come into the story that he may have had a link or tie with some Gerudo heritage or Gerudo origin as part of a twist on what we would expect in the narrative. This was based almost exclusively on the garb being used in all the marketing material, where his undergarment bears more than a passing resemblance to the stylizing we see on Ganondorf in earlier titles, even down to the square patterns and colour choices. It's a pattern that instantly makes me think Gerudo, and having this under his Hylian garb just struck me like there was some ancestry there that he either consciously or unconsciously carried with him as part of a minor detail. Now, before the comments blow up, I know and appreciate that Link is Hylian through and through. I also appreciate that Ganon is the male born every 100 years as per Gerudo lore and teachings in Breath of the Wild and prior games, but the thing is the Gerudo have managed to not only survive without this male Gerudo king being reborn since Ganon's last known appearance in Sealing, but according to the numbers in Breath of the Wild, they're thriving and doing pretty well. Whilst they maintain a tradition of isolationism to their town walls for the protection of their young, Gerudo females are supported with educational classes on how to meet and settle with mates outside of the tribe, a practice they set off to accomplish once they come of age, supported by the plentiful Gerudo women you meet travelling across Hyrule, out on adventures of their very own. Creating a champion spells this out and suggests that once they have found a partner and married, some will return to Gerudo City and operate a shop or act as a vendor to support their family ongoing. We even see the new and budding romance of Ronson and Hudson, one of my personal favourite quests, that of Tarrytown in Breath of the Wild. My point is, we know a lot about Link's father as being a Hyrulian knight, but we don't learn a lot of his mother, who could potentially be Gerudo, just like Ronson is in the example we see with Tarrytown. I'll go further in supporting this theory though. Aside from the garb, we also have the fact that Link is noted from the beginning of the game as an extremely skilled warrior with particular reference to his bowmanship and horse riding capabilities. Both skill sets align strongly with the Gerudo tribe and the established lore from previous games. In relation to archery, Link literally bends time in a bullet time mechanic whenever he draws the bow in movement, suggesting his skills are acting at a genetic level, well above others who care to pick up a bow and arrow. The other interesting piece of evidence for this theory is found in Link's quest to help Riju, and the Thunder Helm at the centre of the Divine Beast Prelude, and the Gerudo side quests that feature in the region. In creating a champion, the description explains that the heirloom has been passed down amongst the Gerudo royal family, and that whilst it may offer anyone protection against lightning strikes, only the Gerudo chief is said to have the ability to use its powers properly. That extra detail is deliberate by nature, and becomes even more convincing when you discover that Riju herself states, "I know that you, more than any other, will be able to use this Thunder Helm to its fullest potential. I believe you can unlock the power of Urbosa that lies within." This piece of dialogue acts to confirm Riju's belief that Link will be able to use the item with the same power that the Gerudo chiefs have sole ownership of, almost confirming his spiritual connection to the ways of the Gerudo, if not supporting the physical manifestation implied in her mandate. I suspect this one will be controversial, but trust me, there's more that crops up supporting this connection, albeit indirectly, and I very much suspect this lineage will become part of a key story arc we see in Tears of the Kingdom. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. So there we have it, 3 theories to whet your appetite for Tears of the Kingdom as we officially crawl closer to launch. Been loving the comments and contributions from the community on the videos, with so many people coming up with really interesting ideas that are honestly quite ingenious, so please keep them coming. It's a real highlight getting to read the thoughts you're all having out there, and also how these series sit with you as well. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there, Thunder Lizards. Keep being amazing. We've got plenty more to come, and we'll see you next time here on GameSmiths.